pudding. Whoa, you little sneak, you almost fell right over. Hello everyone, welcome back to Foster the Meeple, a channel all about board games and board gamey things. And today's preview is going to be on Win or Die from Wales Entertainment, who very kindly sponsored today's video. As per usual with my preview videos, I am going to give you kind of a brief overview of how the game works and then help you decide whether or not it's a good fit for you. So a couple of things. All of the information for Win or Die is going to be listed in the description below. So if it sounds like something you might be interested in, you can click those links, follow the campaign. And the second thing is that this is a prototype. So anything that you see can and may be subject to change. As an example, some of the pieces are like 3D printed, all that good stuff. Without further ado, let's dive into the preview. Long ago, the world's origins were shrouded in mystery. According to the temple and sage, the ancient god named this fabulous world Tai. A million years ago, a world-destroying catastrophe split the world into two closely related continents, the dark and the glory, following ancient gods' principles. After billions of years of internal friction, the resources of Tai have become scarce. The continuous infiltration of chaos power from outside the continent has created extremely harsh living conditions for creatures. Due to the restraint of the truth power, the chaos power cannot directly invade Tai. However, it uses the desires of sentient beings in Tai and manipulates puppets to greedily devour the world. In Win or Die, players will take the role of commanders on the battlefield, assembling their own legions for their factions, devising strategies, managing resources, and commanding battles. The goal is to deplete the enemy's morale by eliminating units and ultimately achieving victory. But what does that mean? I'm glad you asked. Let's take a closer look at how the game works. Now, as usual with my preview videos, I am going to give you a very general overview of how the game works. So this is not an official how to play. I'm just going to give you a good sense of how things kind of go and help you determine whether or not it might be a good fit for you. All right. And I also want to mention I will only be covering the basic version of this game, but it's important to know that the game also has an advanced mode, which will add in a few extra bits and bobs. But this is just going to be kind of like how the basic version of the game works. Before we get started, I would like to first take a look at the cards and the map, starting with the cards. So we are going to dive down really close onto the board so that you have a really good visual of the cards here. And let me just lay some out for you. These are our cards, and maybe it might even be easier to just look at one. Let's not overwhelm ourselves. So I just wanted to show these kind of two because this is a leader. You'll notice that it has a crown, whereas this is a unit. So they are just slightly different. Actually, maybe it does make sense to have both. Let's take a closer look at some of the cards that we have here. So both of these cards come from the same faction. They come from the Yavale Alliance. All right, so we have our leader, which is the Pope of Light. You'll know it's a leader because it will have a crown on it. And then the other one would be one of your units. So you're going to see it doesn't have a crown. Not a leader. Let's take a look at the layout. The number that's up here in the corner is going to be the cost of the card, and that is going to be the amount of titanium crystals that are needed in order to recruit that card. It is also indicating the morale, so how much morale this unit provides to the Legion in battlefield. And you will notice that there are all different amounts. So this one has 4, 6, 1, etc. Okay, so lots of different amounts we can run into there. Then we'll have the unit's name, which is listed right in the middle. So like I mentioned, this is our leader. This is the Pope of Light. And here we have the Castle Crossbowman. Then we have the badge. So you'll see over here, and once again, maybe helpful to look at a couple examples from different factions. you'll notice that they have different badges. This is, like I mentioned, these two here are from the Yavale Alliance, whereas this green one here is from the Ivy Republic. And in the setup of the game that I have today, we have both of those factions present. Okay, and there are 5 different factions. So if you're curious about how many factions are available, there are 5 different ones. Then below we have speed. So here with the green boot, that is your speed. It's the maximum movement range the unit can do. With this little yellow axe, this is power. So that is the number of dice that can be rolled when the unit performs a physical attack. Then here with the fist, we have counter attack, which is the number of dice that can be rolled when the unit does a counter attack. And right here we have hit points, health points. This is the amount of damage the unit can take before being removed from the game. All right, so in the instance of the Pope of Light, they have 8 hit points. Then you'll notice up here, there's a smaller little kind of like number next to the these two symbols here, and that is actually the attack hit rate and the counter attack hit rate. Okay, so it's just a little bit separate from the actual power and counter attack. When the unit performs a physical attack, each dice roll with an equal to or greater value than the number that is listed there can cause physical damage. Then here we have the abilities. So each of the cards are going to come equipped with their own set of abilities. It is going to be different depending on the unit type, the character, all of that good stuff, but they're going to be listed in this little text box area. So if you see the little sword, which the Pope of Light has, that is an action ability. Down here, this little kind of swirly, whirly thing, that is a passive ability. Also have a lightning bolt, which is an instant ability. And finally, we have this star symbol down here, which is an ultimate ability. So a bunch of different types of abilities, everything that they can do, it's all written on the card in text. Then we have the limit. So here you'll see that the Ancient of War has a limit of 3 of that type of unit. Your leader, a limit of 1. This is just going to say how many of that type of character or unit can you have on the board. And for example, this one, the Castle Crossbowman, they can have 5. Then written in this text box right here, we have just some more information. So we'll have the region, we will have the faction, and then we will have the unit type. So as an example, once again, Pope of Light, they're from the Yavale Alliance. They are, sorry, I don't have my glasses on, Soul Citadel, and they are the leader. Whereas here the Ancient of War, Ivy Republic, Wood Elves, and Trickster. Okay, so that is the unit type. So there's leaders, there's fighters, there's archers, there's vanguard, and there are tricksters. Then of course we have the artwork on it that is depicting that character, and there's a little bit of flavor text that's listed at the bottom. So as an example for the Ancient of War, it says, Ancient Guardian of Nature. For the Pope of Light, may the faith guide our path. So that is the layout of the cards. The cards are your units. It's who you're going to be kind of maneuvering and fighting with throughout the game. So it is important to familiarize yourself with the units that you have on the board, what they can do, how they can work together, all that good stuff. All right, then we have the map. So as you can see, the player board or the board is the map. There's some different terrain types. We have mountains, we have wetlands, we have Titan crystal mines, we have flat areas and highlands, and some of those different terrain types are going to impact the way different characters can move and the way that the game functions. All right. Now on the map, you'll also see I already have the game kind of set up here with the Yavale Alliance and the Ivy Republic. Each is going to have their own kind of starting side of the board. You're going to be able to put out 6 to 9 units, which you'll have to pay some crystals for, and they're going to be able to go in those first 2 lines. Now, this is kind of like a Stratego style game. It's a little bit hard to see But this is what my opponent can see. Not much of anything. This is what I can see. So this is my unit. It has some information that's very similar to what you are going to find on the card, including their hit points, the damage that they do, their movement, as well as their kind of counter attack, their power. Let's talk about gameplay. Win or Die is played in a series of rounds, and each round will consist of 3 phases: the start of turn phase, the action phase, and the end of turn phase. During the start of turn phase, you will first command recovery and recover all your command tokens from allies. These right here are your command tokens, which we'll kind of talk about later, but just know command tokens are how you actually command your units. And each unit can have a maximum of 3 command tokens, which you'll just kind of stack on them as you command them. Then you will perform terrain resolution. So you will resolve certain effects of terrain, such as Titan crystal mines. Finally, you will perform effect resolution, resolving or recovering certain tokens of persistent effects. Then you will move into the action phase, which is, of course, the main portion of this game. Back to those command tokens. So you will use a command token to command an ally, which is one of your troops, to perform one of the following actions: move, attack, call for allies, or activate abilities. 2 things to note: each unit can have a maximum of 3 command tokens, as I mentioned before, placed on it. And if your opponent still has unused command tokens, you must ask if they will use a reaction ability before each of your actions, because not only are there actions we can do, but of course there are reactions which you will need a command token in order to use. So if you notice your opponent's kind of like hanging on to some, you might want to assume or maybe think that perhaps they have a reaction ability they may want to trigger. Let's take a closer look at those actions, starting with move. A unit's speed represents the maximum number of spaces it can travel within a single move action. A unit cannot enter an obstacle space or another unit space at any time except involving flying units, because of course they're at their own level. They're above. Okay, so they have a few less restrictions in terms of movement. So just as an example, if I were to command my shield guard, they have a movement of 2. So I would need to take this and I would need to find one of them on the board, which I have one right here. Okay, and then I can move them 1, 2. That is their maximum movement. Next up is attack. So to do this, you will reveal the attacking unit. Then it must choose a unit within its attack range as a target. Keeping in mind, range and long range attacks are going to require line of sight. Now, all of the line of sight stuff is going to be outlined in the rule book. So basically, some of the terrain types have what is called blindage, which is going to limit your line of sight. But you are going to be trying to draw from these white points. And basically that is going to be how you determine that line of sight. So you're going to start by initiating the attack and revealing the target and checking its passive ability to see if it's still valid. And if so, you'll proceed to the attack resolution. So there may be some things that are written on the different units cards that actually don't make the attack possible. I know it's a little bit difficult to see, once again, just based on how I have this, but I have commanded this guy to attack. So let's just say I put a command token on. So we are going to reveal here. And that character is the Falcon Prince. All right. So let's read his card to see if anything is going to limit our ability to attack. So ongoing, he actually has 2 passive abilities here. Precise guidance. When allies within a range for attack or counterattack deal 1 physical damage to their target for each result of 1. And he also has wings, so he is flying. Terrain has no effect on him, and other units cannot block my movement. Only flying units can melee attack me. So you will notice I am trying to do a melee attack here because I am right next to it, but only flying units can melee attack him, and unfortunately I'm attacking with a shield guard. And believe it or not, the shield guard cannot fly. And so this is actually not a valid attack. So when I mentioned before, this is kind of like a Stratego style game. If you are familiar with Stratego or Lord of the Rings Confrontation, you don't actually necessarily know who you're attacking. However, even though I can't attack, I now know, oopsies, I now know where this character is. So it's giving me a little bit more information. So let's maybe try with a different character so we can continue on with the attack example. So let's pretend now instead that it's actually this character, which is the elf huntress. All right, so the elf huntress doesn't have anything here that would limit my attack. She does have a passive ability saying range attack. Reveal an attack unit in range 1 to 3 that is within line of sight instead of melee, but that's not affecting what we are doing right now. Okay, so we have initiated the attack. Now we're going on to attack resolution. The attacking unit will roll a number of dice equal to its power plus number of adjacent allies. And each result that is equal or higher than its hit rate would cause this attack to deal 1 more physical damage. If the target survives a melee attack or abilities damage from adjacent units, then it must perform a counterattack to the attacker. All right, so we have a shield guard versus an elf huntress, and let's just lay them down like that, okay? And maybe we'll put an adjacent unit next to it, just so that we can give that kind of full example, all right? So the attacking unit will roll a number of dice equal to its power plus number of adjacent allies. Now its power is 0, so 0 for that, but we have 1 adjacent ally, so we are going to get 1 dice, all right? Each result, like I said, that is equal to or higher than its hit rate would cause this attack to deal 1 physical damage. Now, so their hit rate is 3, so I need to get a 3 or higher. Did it. So I'm going to do 1 damage to the elf huntress because I had a successful roll. So the target has survived the melee attack, which means it gets to perform a counter attack. So let's talk about that now. A counterattacking unit will roll a number of dice equal to its counter power, which you'll remember is this fist symbol, plus number of allies. Each result that is equal or higher than its counter hit rate, which is right up here, would deal its counter damage back to the person that was attacking it. Now, unfortunately for the elf huntress, she doesn't have any allies next to her, but let's just pretend that she does and we'll just see. So she has rolled a 5 because she wouldn't get to roll at all because her counterattack is 0. So if she didn't have somebody adjacent, she wouldn't be able to do this. But because she did, she could roll 1 die. She rolled a 5 and her counterattack is 5 plus, so she would also be able to do a damage to that unit. So that's how attacking works. It's very straightforward. It is definitely not a complicated thing. The main thing that you need to keep a watch of is your character's cards, those passive abilities, if they have any other special ability that happens kind of while they are attacking. Now the next action you can take is to call for allies. Only allies in your baseline can activate this action. So the baseline, if you'll remember, is these first 2 rows right here, okay? So all of these units are currently in my baseline. You will select and pay for a unit in your barrack and slot it into an unused battle base along with the enhancement you want to purchase. So if I wanted to get one of these guys out, and let's find his card here. This is a papal guard. So if I wanted to recruit this ally, I would have to get one of these bases to slide him into, okay? And don't forget that you do have to pay for the new units. So this guy costs 3 crystals, so I just need to make sure that I had those 3 crystals in order to be able to recruit him, basically. Then you will place this unit exposed in the space to the left or right of the ally who took this action. So let's just say I had commanded this person to do it. Then they are going to be exposed. And we are going to put it right next to the person that recruited us, the unit that recruited us. So there he is exposed. to the other players. Then you're going to adjust the morale of the Legion. So his morale is 3. So then we would need to adjust the morale. So our morale started at 20. We are going to go up to 23. So we have adjusted our morale. We have increased morale, which is really good because something I didn't mention about how you, like, one of the ways you lose this game is if your fatigue and your morale ever cross. You don't want that. Finally, you can activate an ability. The abilities are divided into the following 4 types. We have action, passive, reaction, and ultimate. For action, which you will remember is this little sword symbol here, you will reveal the unit if it is hidden and perform the corresponding ability during your turn. So this is the Pope of Light. He's down here, so I would need to reveal him. Don't forget, man token. And then you're going to perform the ability. So his action ability is heal 3 to a unit. It gains a Gacy's token, which I believe are these tokens. Next time I take damage, discard this token and take no damage. All right, so that's the sword action. It's just an example of what it is on his card. An ability with the same name can only be used once per turn for each unit. So just keep that in mind for the for that action. Then we've already kind of discussed it, but we have passive actions. Now, passive actions must be performed whenever the unit is exposed, regardless of being commanded or not. All right, so just remember, being exposed is important for the passive ability. Then we have a reaction. At the timing mentioned on the specific reaction ability or before your opponent's action, if there isn't a specific timing mentioned, you will command and reveal the ally activating the reaction. Execute the corresponding ability instruction on its card. The ability with the same name can only be used once per turn per unit. So you'll see here, for the Goddess of Peace, it's almost highlighted a little bit. So her reaction says to spell, cancel an enemy's action or reaction ability immediately after the attempt, all right? And then, last but not least, we have ultimate. So let's find one here. Here we go. The Elf Huntress has an ultimate, which is this little star symbol here. Reveal the unit if it's hidden and perform the corresponding ability during your turn, but it can only be used once per game using the ultimate use token to keep track of its availability. So these are going to be ultimate. They are going to be very strong, which is why you're only going to be able to use it. So let's read the Elf Huntresses so you have a good idea of what that's like. Her ultimate is tree climbing. Stack me on top of an Ancient of War that does not already carry anything yet. It then gains range attack and 3 power. I die when it dies. So she's basically like becoming a part of the Ancient of War, giving them a little bit more strength, and they're kind of teaming up, but that's her ultimate. The final phase of the round is the end of turn phase. You're going to announce the turn end. You can decide to end your turn anytime during your action phase, allowing any ongoing actions to resolve fully before proceeding to the next phase. Then we will resolve fatigue. So fatigue must increase 1, and you'll remember that's this little tracker down here. So fatigue must increase 1. Then your opponent can start their turn. Both players are going to alternate turns until the end of game condition is met or one of them chooses to surrender. The game end trigger will happen if at any time the morale of Legion is less than or equal to the fatigue. It is considered defeat and the opponent achieves a glorious victory. So I kind of mentioned that already, but those are tracked here. And if your morale goes down, your fatigue goes up, all whatever it might be, anytime when either player's fatigue reaches 8, it is considered a defeat and the opponent wins the battle in triumph. So that basically means that the game can't go on for more than 8 rounds. So, my friends, that is a very general overview of how Win or Die works. But kind of in a nutshell, let me just go over it. You are going to be forming your legions. There are a bunch of different ones for you to choose from. So we saw some from the Ivy Republic today, as well as the Yavail Alliance. We also have the Dedeo Empire, the Chaos Realm and the Annihilation Horde. Like I mentioned, there's also an advanced mode of this game, which is going to give you a little bit more agency over kind of creating those lineups. So what you're doing is you're going to be taking actions, you're going to be moving through the terrain, and your ultimate goal is to defeat your opponent. So as you kind of come to a head and as you fight, different characters are going to get revealed. You're going to be doing damage. You can recruit new characters, and then you're going to be fighting and just trying to tire the other team out before you get tired while keeping your morale high. The game itself will take around 40 to 60 minutes, and it actually plays from 2 to 6. But if you are planning on playing with more than 2 players, you will need additional boards. But the question that you have is probably, well, who is this game for? Now, this is a game definitely for fans of games like Stratego, Lord of the Rings Confrontation, that style game. You all know how Jeff and I feel about Lord of the Rings Confrontation. So if that's kind of your jam, this could be a good fit for you. And obviously, this is a combat style strategy game. There is a lot of strategy that is going to go into this game. Though the rule set is pretty straightforward, I would not consider this a lightweight game because there is a lot of variability and a lot to kind of pay attention to with regards to outwitting your opponent. It is a head-to-head game where your ultimate goal is to defeat your opponent, meaning there is a lot of player interaction. So if you don't like player interaction, if you don't enjoy conflict, if you don't like setting up a whole plan in your head and then having somebody come and knock it all down, well, that is a big part of this game, but I do know that there's a lot of people who really enjoy player interaction, so this could definitely be a game for you. There's a lot of different strategies that you can try, and once again, a lot of different factions that you can use, which is going to change up your strategy because each of the faction has its own set of unit types that can be used, and they all play differently. They all have different types of triggers. They all have different passive abilities and actions and strengths and weaknesses. And even how you lay everything out is going to matter. So do I want to put my heavy hitters up front? Do I want to keep my leader a little further back to protect them? What do you want to do? The choice is yours, and there's a lot of choices to make. So if that sounds like something that you might be interested in, then I would highly recommend that you go and click the link in the description to determine whether or not this is going to be a good fit for you. Of course, this is very fantasy-esque. Actually, let me grab, I want to grab some more of the cards because I do think that people are probably going to be kind of interested in this. So here's a Centaur character. We have a Marauder character. We have a War Chief, we have a Frost Shaman. There are so many different types of characters in here. This one's really cool. We have Wraiths, we have Bloodthirsty Yaksha, War Mammoth. Oh, these are fun. This one is so pretty. We have Dancer, and we have Blue Moon Assassin. So you can tell from the colors. Now, the factions are kind of the colors here. So they're all going to play in different ways. Skeleton Guard. This one's a lot of skeletons. Ooh, a Sphinx. It's very Egyptian pirate. That Frost Dragon. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit carried away with all of these different characters, but there's just a ton of variability in here. So yeah, like I mentioned, if it sounds like it might be a good fit for you, check that link out below. And if you have any questions, definitely let me know in the comments below as well. But that is everything that I have for you today. So if you're interested in buying board games, you should first start by checking your friendly local gaming store. For us, that is the Boardroom Game Cafe. And if you like what you see, please subscribe. I hope to see you again soon. And now I say goodbye. Goodbye.